few minutes. So Jeremy Vaney, as well as a couple other people, mostly Jeremy Vaney, asked me a very, what's been to me, interesting question, especially last year, but throughout my life. And it's very pertinent to paranormal UFO discussions, right? People seeing and hearing things that aren't there according to other people, right? The whole question of hallucinations, delusions versus people that seem to have established some type of verifiable paranormal information transfer, like from the future or across space. As well as people that end up feeling like they're in contact with some type of a spiritual entity, and then they're able to bring that forward in their own life in terms of, good works, providing comfort to other people, allowing other people to have their own spiritual experiences as well. So Jeremy asked the question, it's like, how do you know if something's a delusion or not? And I'm going to answer that with a classic dad joke. It's the whole, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. Because I think that there's a lot of people that explicitly practice in terms of occult or esoteric methods for enhancing psi functioning, learning how to lucid dream, tracking your dreams for to see if you have precognitive dreams, using various methods of divination to try and find out, if you can get a handle on what's going to be happening in the future for yourself, or what is going on, the dynamics in someone else's, like a stranger's life, that type of thing. So this became a more explicit issue for me recently, actually about a year ago, so not super recent, because I had been having lupus, and I ended up in the emergency room with lupus psychosis, which I guess can happen. They're finding out now that a lot of people who have like a psychotic break, you need to screen them for autoimmune diseases, because the immune system can attack the brain, the forbidden treat there of the immune system. And you can have a lot of excitement. As it turns out, I finally got to a neurologist, and I have been having seizures, complex seizure activity in the temporal area, which, if you've been around these neighborhoods, Psi neighborhoods for a while, there was a fad for a while of thinking that people who had, like bedroom visitations, or feeling like they were talking to God and stuff, were all having like a temporal lobe epilepsy, which I think kind of fell out of favor because they couldn't find like a good correlation there, although I guess it is something that can happen. So when I started having these very difficult episodes that included very bad aphasia, not being able to move, auras kind of similar to a migraine aura, a little bit of twitchiness, like really bad confusion. Yesterday I had 4 very different socks. I spent 10 minutes looking at them and trying to decide, okay, is there a pair in here or is there not? And I couldn't figure it out. So like that type of level of, confusion. I just had to lay down and wait for it to pass. But yeah, these very strong, like neurological, psychological conditions. And so, if you have a person like myself who's saying, oh, actually I'm in contact with like my spiritual guides ever since my near-death experience, I have premonitions, blah, 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 all this stuff. I've seen ghosts, I've seen things move. People are going to be like, okay, yeah, this is, there's going to be certain people who are going to be very excited about this because it's like an explanation for everything that's happening. But my own personal interior experience and some of the kind of consensus group reality experience has been very different. When I first had that really bad episode and I ended up in the hospital for a day or so while they were doing brain scans to see if I had like a clot or something, or a bleed, a stroke, it was very weird because I'd always feared something like this because I had a number of immune problems from the time I would hit puberty, which is for many people when especially when these things kick up. And I'd been on like a lot of very intense medications, which including prednisone, which can definitely send you into hallucination land. So I had actually experienced a number of hallucinations and wildly out of control emotions due to the treatment with the prednisone. So I was kind of used to, I had a really good doctor, pulmonologist for many decades, and he would talk to me about this type of stuff, the side effects, what to watch for, how to handle it and stuff. And so I had some experience. So I knew immediately when I started hallucinating last year, and having delusions, partly because I'd been through it before. Um, Also, uh, it did have differences to it. It was more like oh, that light over there is so nice and friendly, and it looks like it wants to talk to me and tell me something, which I knew was a delusion. But the reason that I knew that as it happened, I haven't had delusions that are really unpleasant, which I'm very thankful for. And they also tend to be kind of the standard ones. So it's like, and I've been around people, and especially I've had a lot of conspiracy interests over the years. You see a lot of people with these type of verging on delusional or flat out delusional beliefs. And so you kind of get, again, um, practice recognizing that particular kind of thought pattern. And this is another thing that kind of gets me. I don't think I'm making the most sense today, but it's another thing that kind of gets me about a lot of these kind of so-called materialist explanations for paranormal phenomena. Because I said, well, it's all pareidolia, right? People are just looking for patterns that aren't there. It's like, well, I finally have got relief from my symptoms because the neurologist recognized, hey, this sounds like a pattern of someone who could be having an electrical problem with their brain. Went and tested it, found it, and then you test that hypothesis further by trying anti-seizure medicines and seeing if they've helped, and they have. So it's not like recognizing patterns is across the board not useful. If it was not useful to individual and species survival, then it would be selected against heavily, right? But here we are trying to look for it all the time because we're always trying to see the tiger in the bush, even though the tiger is camouflage, right? They wouldn't need camouflage if we couldn't recognize patterns. So it's kind of this ongoing battle. But that's what helped me. And I'd also spent a lot of time growing up, like assessing myself. I had music training, right? That you have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to what's surrounding you and being able to and not just be completely immersed in soaking up the experience, right? You're looking at it analytically and organizing it according to your goals, whatever they may be, right? So if you're practicing scales, you're listening to, the tone and the intonation of the attack, all these things, right? And so I think a lot of these type of, a lot of people are involved in evaluating their own performance on hobbies, their performing arts, all these things. And then the same can happen with psi skills. A lot of what you're doing in meditation is you're sitting with your own self and getting to know, okay, what is this particular body-mind configuration that I am sitting in right now, and how does it tend to unfold in through time in different situations. If you get acquainted with that baseline, then you can have a better feeling for, hey, wait, something new is coming in. Where's that from? And try to evaluate that. This is one of the benefits of working in groups, is that you can have practice with yourself, and then you can do practices with other people and start to feel like what it's like to have a different consciousness that is working in tandem with or in similar ways to your own, right? If you were chanting mantra with someone, right? I had a teacher in Tibetan Buddhism, and we used to do prayers for people and light candles for people who had passed when they were in Bardo. And doing that with her was a different experience than doing it on my own. So you get to know how you can kind of get the sense for that kind of subtle connection with another individual. I always encourage people to get to know trees in their area. It sounds nutty, but they're very interesting, and you can usually find one who'll be interested in striking up a conversation with you, and then you get, again, it's practice with someone just beside yourself, right? If you want to get to be good at chess, right, you can play against yourself, but then you play against other people. It's a very different game. I've also had, as it happens, a number of experiences where I felt or sensed something. I had a dream or something, and I thought, this is telling me something about a particular situation, and I was able to, usually because it involved a terrible experience for someone that made it into the newspaper or that I ended up having knowledge of, I was able to get that information verified. So that kind of goes into the bank. So if you pursue these type of things, you have to have a big area, in my opinion, for experiences that you're not sure, if they were even for you, if they had any verifiable information in them or not, and so on. And just have, to me, that's the healthiest approach to be okay with uncertainty, because a lot of stuff we don't know, and especially when it comes to like impressions or visions, things like that, sometimes you just really have to just set it there. And I've had very strong impressions that I didn't find out had any type of connection or enhanced meaning to them until literally, decades later. So yeah, it's not for everyone, but if you do have these type of impressions and stuff, and I would say be upfront with yourself if you don't know, and try and get comfortable with that. Because even if someone from a very hard-nosed materialist viewpoint or an honest materialist viewpoint is looking at me and say, okay, yeah, now this lady has seizures, so obviously this is what is coloring all of these experiences that she's had or generating. Because I do think probably there's bleed through of kind of coloring the experiences, but if you're going to be materialist, I've had, I haven't been tested for this. This is the first time that I had a weird EEG or brain scan, and I've had like a number of CAT scans and MRIs over the years because of weird brain things happening with me. And this is the first time that they've found anything weird, and I've been having these type of experiences since I was a girl. So could it be that? Yeah. Can we? But it's kind of dishonest in a materialist level to pin everything on it, because I think you would want to have a better case for it. I don't know. Maybe you could make that type of a case through like a medical history or something. I really honestly don't know, but I would have to say. And then the other thing is, I realized something was different right away because I've been, meditating and doing awareness practices for so long. I'm in such a habit of observing my mental state as it relates to various weirdnesses, just because I'm at risk of things, for example, like stroke. I've had pulmonary embolisms before, which I almost died from them. So I'm very aware of that. And because any of these type of changes in perception, awareness, and neurological functioning can indicate possible stroke. But when this popped off, that wasn't how it was for me. And when I had the original psychotic episode, I was in the hospital. It was very strange because I always feel like I'm getting kind of like a low level of psychic input all the time. Mostly because I have like friends and family, and I want to make sure everyone's okay and have a feeler out there in case something pops off for them. I want them to feel like I'm there. Which, believe it or not, I have had numerous people tell me that they feel that it is comforting to them. So I don't. So I figure that's good. Um, but it was weird because I had about 3 days where I just felt like all that was cut, which was the exact opposite of what I expected. And they weren't giving me uh, a bunch of medicine or anything. Um, my sense was that my guides had cut this so I could have like a break because I was, my system was under such stress. But yeah, I think that this is very long-winded and kind of rambly with different things going on. But in terms of Jeremy's question, I think that um, if you get to know your own self and how you usually function, including your thought patterns, kind of the voice. If a lot of people talk to themselves in their heads, how that voice kind of usually goes. Um, how your emotions usually play out. Uh, just getting to know yourself through awareness practices and meditations and everything like that. That you will tend to notice when something new happens, and yeah, and this is just a healthy practice for anyone generally, because it could be a health issue. It could be that you have a relationship, a job, a habit that is not serving you well, that you need to look at maybe changing. I mean, it could be any number of things. So I think it can be valuable, even if you're not explicitly thinking about like weird stuff and that. But it was interesting to me personally that it was a very different type of, because I figured it would just be like, popping off. I'd be like, talking to God and seeing ghosts and everything. But yeah, it's weird. I guess there was a very interesting cloud the other day, it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I walked outside and I saw it, and it was funny because I could hear in my mind, it was just all of a sudden, it's like, that cloud is talking to you about God and the apocalypse. And I was just like, okay, that's a and it's not even like some unique, exciting new spin on delusions. It's just like the same thing everyone gets. So I thought that was kind of funny, but and with the seizures being less, it was easier for. I mean, I have recognized these things as delusions all along, but with the seizures and better medication, it is easier for me to just kind of brush it off, and it doesn't feel so compelling. Um, there was one other thing I wanted to say, and I can't remember what it is. I had a bad day yesterday, but yeah, that's just my personal experience. And I think there's a lot of people that, if you have like a music practice, or you do writing, where you produce writing, and then you're used to looking at that and saying, okay, how does this work? All these type of things, excuse me, can help people have an awareness of when something is different. Like athletes, right? They're very aware when they're having a difference in functioning, because they practice that, and then they interrogate it, and keep track of their own benchmarks and things like that. And it is possible to have confirmation of impressions or visions that you've received. I've had it numerous times, and that can help you key in onto certain vibes or patterns, or sometimes you'll just have a knowing on I really apologize uh, for these experiences. Um, the other one thing that I wanted to close on is, well, first of all, I don't think I've mentioned this. I should have mentioned it in the beginning, but if you're interested in helping the people in Gaza at this point, there is a organization called Millies Bookshelf, Millies Bookshelf, and they have been active for a number of years, helping get reading material books to kids in Gaza. And needless to say, the last while they've been helping with food, diapers, formula, that type of things that will help people in that very dire situation. So if you feel compelled or able to give, I think that could be a very good organization to help, because obviously they need more now, and they're constantly having to shift with changing conditions in the area to try and get this aid over there. So that's something to consider. But the last thing I wanted to bring up is one, because like I was psychotic, right? I'm having like seizures, hallucinations, and delusions. So this seems like a mental health thing. If you're going to be a materialist and you want to keep people's well-being foremost in your mind, and I hate saying this in the United States of America because it's not doable for a large number of people. It's just financially, even with the number of doctors and specialists in an area. It took me almost a year to see a neurologist after I ended up in the emergency room, just like out of my mind, because we don't have enough doctors. I see a lot of people who are materialists and skeptical, and they'll throw around, oh, this person, mental health issues, blah, blah, blah. First of all, people can have misguided thinking and be wrong and have crazy thoughts and not be mentally ill, right? They need to have a workup by a competent professional before you can say that that is the case. I mean, it would seem to me to be materially the fact, as well as like only ethical. There's also a number of psychological and neurological conditions that can be brought on by not like mental health, so much just, like physical conditions of, especially older people who get urinary tract infections will often have delusions and paranoid thinking and a change of personality. And it has nothing, it's not really like a mental health issue, they just have like an infection that's affecting them, right? So the ethical, materialist, prudent thing to do always, if someone's having something that's really bothering them, if it is affecting their quality of life, if it is interfering with their activities of daily life. I haven't driven for years now because I could tell something was off of my brain and I didn't want to endanger anyone. And now I'm medically contraindicated until I stop having seizures, which is good. But if you're going to say that you want to be a materialist because we have to be grounded in reality, then you can't just like pop off on social media, well, that person's crazy, or oh wait, they have a mental health issue, right? You don't know. You need to go, and this is the thing that kills me, because people like, oh, Dion Fortune, she was so old-fashioned, she was approved, blah, blah, blah. She would say, okay, if someone's having these type of problems, you need to like get them grounded, get them to a doctor, get them to a psychologist, get them evaluated so we can see what's happening, right? Instead of just like sitting there on Twitter, talking about mental health issues. You don't know what they're facing. You don't know what their life is like. You're not a doctor. Any competent professional is not going to be diagnosing someone because you saw a presentation they did at a conference or something, a Twitter thread, right? So I would encourage us to be a little bit more ethical and, practically based. Because people can have a lot of different issues. You don't know what's going on, and you can't claim to be evidence-based, materially based, an ethical person, just popping off about people's mental health issues. I saw this happen with Jeff Ritzmann when Paratopia was going on, and people say he needs to get on antipsychotic drugs or something. And especially back then, I mean, the drugs that we have better drugs now and better monitoring now. But back then, the drugs had very serious side effects. They could shorten your life by like 10 years. And Ritzmann, he had a house, a very creative job that he loved, a great marriage and stuff. It's like, why Why would you want this person to be taking like some serious drugs that you don't even know they need because you're just some rando on the internet when, you know, their life is stable? Anyway, now I'm ranting. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps, and I hope it's not too boring because I'm very tired. But you guys all take care, and talk to you later. See if I can figure out how to turn this off. Yes.